Hey everyone, I'm Mike from theparkprodigy.com, and are you making the same costly mistakes that 90% of Universal Orlando guests make during early park admission? Well, if you're showing up right when early park admission starts, using the main entrance to Super Nintendo World, or fumbling around for your tickets at the security checkpoints, you're already losing precious time, which can cost you hours in line later in the day. And that's why in this video, I'm about to reveal the insider secrets that most guests never learn, including the exact timing strategies that separate the park pros from the park rookies, and why your approach to Epic Universe needs to be completely different than the other parks. I'm about to break down 7 mistakes you're probably making during early park admission at Universal Orlando. So without any further ado, let's go get started. Thank you all again so much for checking out this video. Like I said, I'm about to break down 7 of the most common mistakes I see families make during early park admission at Universal Orlando. And of course, early park admission is a great benefit, a great perk that gives guests up to an hour extra in the morning, and it can be a great way to get on some of the most popular rides with really low wait times. And so I actually just created a video kind of breaking down how I would tackle early park admission at Epic Universe at this point in time. But of course, there is other parks at Universal Orlando, so I decided, hey, probably just time to do a refresher and just break down some of the most common mistakes or some of the things you should be keeping an eye out if you do plan to use early park admission at Universal. So let's jump in. Let's start with number 1, and that is going to be not getting to the parks early enough for early park admission. And I'm starting with this one because this is probably the one that I get the most hate for online, where people come at me and they tell me I'm wrong. Guys, I was just at Epic Universe yesterday and I did this strategy. We got on to Harry Potter and the Battle at the Ministry within the first 20 minutes. And then because we kind of knew which rides to hit during early park admission and which rides to avoid, we essentially skipped doing a 65-minute wait for Mario Kart Bowser's Challenge, and we came back at night and it was a 15-minute wait. So people can come at me all they want and say that I'm wrong, you're still waiting for the park to open, but it works. I'd rather be waiting for the park to open up than be waiting in line during my hours in the park. So here is the tip and strategy. When I say make sure you get there early enough, I actually mean for Islands of Adventure and Epic Universe, you want to be at this park waiting for early park admission to start. You want to be there 1 hour before early park admission even starts. And yes, I know you're going to be waiting an hour for the park to open up, but my theory, like I just said, is I always prefer to wait when I'm not paying for that time. Like the park isn't open. You're not missing out on going on rides, character meet and greet. You're not missing out on anything. You're just doing the right thing and getting there early, and you're waiting an hour for the park to open up. But what will happen is you will be some of the first guests through the turnstile, which means you will be some of the first guests onto your preferred ride. What I would suggest is at Islands of Adventure, my number 1 is still going to be Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure. Over at Epic Universe, my number 1 is still going to be Harry Potter and the Battle at the Ministry. But the important thing, the caveat there, is that Battle at the Ministry is not guaranteed to be open for early park admission. But you have to go watch my video on it because I break down the pros and the cons. And I still think that if you wait for Battle at the Ministry to open up, let's say at 10 o'clock, which is when the park typically has been opening up, even if you end up waiting for that ride to open up as well, you're still going to be coming out ahead when you break down the average wait times for all of the rides. And if you don't want that, again, you show up really early, you're still going to be some of the first guests on whatever other rides you go on at Epic Universe. Be sure to go watch that video. I've gotten a lot of really positive feedback that it's been helpful, and I break down a couple different scenarios that you can use. But sticking with number 1 too, the other important thing is showing up an hour early. You don't forget, if you're going to the original Universal Orlando parks, you have to park, you have to go through security, you have to get over to those parks. Epic is a little bit easier, but the other thing I would say about Epic is what I have found is they pretty much have been running 15 minutes early from every single kind of time point that they have. So parking was supposed to open up yesterday at 8 o'clock. It opened up at 7:45. The park was supposed to start letting guests in for early park admission at 8:45. They started letting guests in, I would say, around 8:30. Everything has been about 15 minutes early. So you want to be early. You want to be, the saying goes, if you're early, you're 5 minutes late, or whatever it is, whatever the football coaches say. You want to be early. You want to get there early, and you'll get the most out of your early park admission. I know that was a long rant, but I can't stress how important it is. And like I said, I am in the parks doing this stuff. I understand you're waiting an hour, but it works. Okay, over to number 2, and this is one that can trip you up. And there's 2 different ways that this can trip you up. So first is you want to be sure to always have your park tickets out, or you want to be sure to have a lanyard for easy access to your ticket. So we're going to stick with Epic Universe for a second. So within Epic Universe, like I said, said, you can go to Harry Potter and the Battle at the Ministry during your early park admission, and hopefully they'll have that ride open. That ride though is open for everyone, okay? But you're still taking advantage of it during the extra hour. On the flip side, if you're going into Super Nintendo World, Dark Universe, or going to ride Stardust Racers, so Universal is actually going to check to see your early park admission kind of credentials. So you want to be sure to keep them out and have them ready, because you don't want to waste any time. You just did the right thing. You showed up early. Have your tickets out until you know that they checked them. And so in Epic Universe, it can be tricky because they're not checking them kind of right away. They're checking them at the land. So you want to be sure. You're going to be walking and you might think, oh, everything's great, we're in for early park admission, but then they stop you and you have to scramble for your ticket. So just keep them out. Give them to the most mature person in your party that you know will not lose them. I am not that person in my group, so that's why I'm saying that, because I already know I would be handing the tickets off. But whatever you have to do, just make sure you have those tickets secured and have them out until you get into the land. So over at Islands of Adventure, you're going to be able to walk into the park, but then right before Seuss Landing, they're going to check for your early park admission credentials. So that's when you want to be sure to have them out. Now, what I would say too, for Islands of Adventure, if you're going onto Hagrid's Magical Creatures, and let's say you're bringing a backpack or anything that you would need to put in your locker, keep your tickets out, because that's also what you're going to use for the lockers over there to scan and kind of put your bag in the locker. And again, keeping you moving as quickly as possible, because you want to get onto the rides as quickly as possible. Another tip on top of the trick here is that there are certain shortcuts. So within Seuss Landing, if you want the shortcut, you can go to the left when you enter Seuss Landing, right to the left of Green Eggs and Ham. Avoid most of Seuss Landing and you'll get to Hogsmeade or the Jurassic World Velocicoaster a little bit quicker. Okay, over to the next mistake, and I would say not eating breakfast before you get over to the park. So as you can see, you're getting there where we pretty much have you going straight to the rides. You do not want to waste any time, and you want to be sure that you eat breakfast before you get to the park, because we don't want you stopping once you get there. The whole point is to get on rides or really to take advantage of the park. And let's be honest, yeah, Starbucks is great, but you probably have a Starbucks up the block. So instead of wasting your time during early park admission on waiting online in Starbucks in the park, eat breakfast before you get there. Or if you're using my tip right and you're showing up an hour early, get granola bars, get little bags of cereal so you guys can actually eat while you're online, so you're multitasking. The only caveat to this, what I would say, is if you're going to Islands of Adventure or Universal Studios Florida and you have a couple of days worth of early park admission, one of the things that I love to do, just because I go to the parks, lucky enough, I do go a lot, I will go and I'll enjoy breakfast within the Wizarding World of Harry Potter sometimes. So we'll go to either the Three Broomsticks or the Leaky Cauldron, again, whichever park is open, and we'll kind of just have breakfast. We'll enjoy the parks with fewer crowds. We'll use the interactive wands, stuff like that. So that's the only caveat to this. But if you are ride heavy, you want to have something in your stomach before you get there. All right, over to the next mistake, and that is not staying up to date and understanding exactly which rides are open for early park admission. And of course, if you're watching this video, maybe you've been watching my channel for a while. What I would say is, even if you've been watching my channel, the week before, a couple days before, you want to be on the Universal Orlando app. You want to be sure you're double checking, making sure all the rides that you are hoping to go on are part of early park admission. Now, what I would say is Epic is really going to be the main focus here, just because we have seen a couple changes to early park admission at that park already. It is the newest park, and so that's the one that's kind of getting the most attention and love. And really what made me add this to the list is I see a lot of comments on our videos that are pretty much saying, well, this is a great video, Donkey Kong's actually open now for early park admission. Or if you're even watching my videos, I'm telling you to go on to Battle at the Ministry. But like I said, Battle at the Ministry is not technically part of early park admission. Universal has just been opening it up during that extra hour. So I'm trying to be very, very clear on that you do have to kind of, like I said, go watch that video, because you need to understand the pros and the cons and which rides are actually included with early park admission, which rides might open up a little bit early, even though they're not included. There's a lot of moving parts that go into planning. But the good part is I really believe that if you are doing the right thing and you're watching this video, you're planning, you will get so much done within your day. You really will. You'll leave the park feeling like, wow, we got our money's worth. And that really is the main point of kind of everything we do. All right, so the main ones that you really want to keep an eye out for are going to be, of course, Islands of Adventure, and the main ride is typically going to be Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure or the Jurassic World Velocicoaster. But one of the hidden gems that I think some folks might miss is if you are visiting for a couple days and you have early park admission for a couple days, you might want to go to Ollivander's Wand Shop and take advantage of the parks with lower crowds. Over to Epic Universe, of course, we do have Mario Kart Bowser's Challenge, we have Yoshi's Adventure, Stardust Racers, Constellation Carousel, Monsters Unchained, The Frankenstein Experiment, and Curse of the Werewolf. I ran these rides on November 22nd, 2025, and you see a lot of folks online are talking about Donkey Kong opening early and Battle at the Ministry, but they are not officially on that list. so you just have to be mindful of that. And then the other park that I haven't really spoken about a lot, but Universal does have open for early park admission, is Volcano Bay. So Volcano Bay, but it's not all of the rides. So again, just be sure that you understand all of the rides open for early park admission and just be able to plan that much better. All right, over to number 5, and I would say that one of the biggest mistakes that families can make, and this is, I guess I've kind of just been talking about this the whole time, but that would be not having a game plan for early park admission or backup plans, if rides go down. Of course, when you're dealing with the theme parks, Florida, the weather, there's always something that happens, right? So you want to be sure that you have a plan going into your day, but then you have backup plans that say, okay, no, if Hagrid's is down, we're going straight to the Velocicoaster. Or maybe you're Harry Potter heavy and you'll go on the Forbidden Journey, right? But you want to be sure to at least have your plan going in. And I would always say, go to your top attraction first. I get so many comments saying that, like, no, that's wrong. But the truth is, I do understand that every family has different goals. And that's why there's not really one size fits all when it comes to a great theme park vacation. That's why I'm telling you, if that is your top attraction, go to your top attraction, because if that ride is down, then at least you have some time within your day to come back and try to get on that ride. And that kind of ties into then coming back and having your game plan. So my favorite plans in this order for the 2 most popular parks are going to be over at Islands of Adventure. If you're following my early morning strategy, I would go to Hagrid's Magical Creatures. You are then going to hit the Jurassic World Velocicoaster. You will hit the Forbidden Journey, and then the park will probably be open for all guests at this point, but you can still then go on to Flight of the Hippogriff. You should be able to get 4 rides out of the way within the first 2 hours if you follow this plan. Over to Epic Universe, and of course I said, if you're willing to take the risk and the gamble that Battle at the Ministry will open up a little bit early, then that is your plan. You're going straight to Battle at the Ministry, and then I would go over to Dark Universe after that and do Curse of the Werewolf and Monsters Unchained, or if you wanted to, you could do the Toothless Meet and Greet. If you don't want to gamble, then essentially you're going to go and you're going to do Curse of the Werewolf, Monsters Unchained, and then Stardust Racers in that order. You could swap out Stardust Racers for the Toothless Meet and Greet. Again, you could see, you could pretty much pick and choose what works best for you. And like I said, just be prepared. Rides do go down. So we were doing this plan yesterday. We did Harry Potter and the Battle at the Ministry, but by the time we got over to Monsters Unchained, it was down. So we did pivot and we went over to the Isle of Berk and we did the Toothless Meet and Greet. Okay, moving over to mistake number 6. And if you're not ride heavy, you might think that there's no point of you going for early park admission, but I disagree with that. I have said this a couple times already in this video, and I think that even during early park admission, if you're not going on rides, it's a great time to just enjoy specifically the Wizarding World of Harry Potter at Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios Florida with lower crowds. Like, you can get some great photos in, you can use your interactive wand, and I think it's honestly, if Universal Studios Florida isn't really open that much for early park admission, which is why I'm talking about the other park mainly in this video, but I think that Diagon Alley is one of the most enjoyable spots in all of the parks, and specifically during early park admission with low crowd. And you'll see if you have those interactive wands, this is a great time to use them when there's not really that long lines to go and do the spells. You really get to enjoy it, and I think it's really cool. Over in Super Nintendo World though, in Epic Universe, again, most families are going on the ride. So if you do have those power-up bands, same thing. It's another great time to go and to do all those interactive games within Super Nintendo World with lower crowd. And over to number 7, and that would be mistake is just not even understanding what early park admission is or trying to get it for your next family vacations. And so listen, I understand if you are the type of family you really love staying in the parks until it's super late, go for it. That is your thing. But I also feel like Universal Studios Florida and Islands of Adventure, during a lot of the months throughout the year, they close around like 7 or 8 o'clock. It's different from Disney, where maybe Magic Kingdom will be open a little bit later until 10, 11 o'clock at night sometimes, or they have the extra hour events, right? Over at Universal though, you do have to really get the most out of your day. And I feel like for the original 2 parks, the best way to do it is to show up and get the extra hour and get on as many rides as you can within the first hour, 2 hours, because it will just set your day up for success. I do this for a living. I'm in the parks myself, getting the most out of my day. I just feel like you do need to understand. And a lot of times when it comes to booking an official Universal Orlando hotel, they have so many really affordable options, or they're always running deals. They're running a deal right now up to 30% off. And so that's why I just feel like if you're not looking at all your options and trying to figure out, well, is it worth it? Is it not? And you're kind of just saying, well, no, we don't need that extra hour. You might be costing yourself some extra time waiting in line later in the day. And that's why I created this video. And I do really hope that you found this video helpful. If you did, please just be sure to hit that subscribe button, as I have a lot more similar videos coming out in the coming weeks to keep you as prepared as possible for your next Universal Orlando trip. And as a thank you for sticking around all the way until the end of this video, I actually have a promo code you can go use on our website website to save an extra $50 off on top of the already discounted promotions that Universal might be running. But you do have to use it on our website, theparkprodigy.com, and that promo code is going to be MAGIC50. But I think that's all the time we have for today. Thank you all again so much for checking out this video, and until next time, I will talk to you soon.